This is a trade recap for Tuesday, August 4th, trading the NASDAQ, and I have pulled up the 1 hour chart. If we move one time from higher, which is all I'm using for the week because we haven't had a lot of price movement yet, we have all 4 hour bullish candles off of the new weekly opening gap getting filled. So that really is my thesis for us remaining bullish. Two new weekly opening gaps overlapping, and we remained really bullish, very highly bullish on the 4 hour. On that, we can check the 6 hour. Same thing, same narrative, supporting. There was no gap to tap into on the 6 hour. So what I've been seeing is we're trading on the 4 hour, the one, the 5 minute, and the 3, 2, and 1 minute. And I narrowed my entry down using mainly the 5 minute, the 2 minute, and the 1 minute. And I'll tell you why the 15 minute just we haven't been retracing long enough to have a good 15-minute tap. So not too much to enter in off of, just off of today's leg, off of New York Open, 930 is right here. There was no 15-minute tap that we could get into other than 1030. 1030, which didn't look clean on NASDAQ. Your entry would be on ES, but I preferred price action on NASDAQ today. So I'll pull up the charting. You can see our cycle was AMDX for the daily cycle. This is because YM, of course, gave us a great DC, sweeping the low of day, and just having a perfect reaction for AMDX. Manipulation was at this time where we created our DC. If it'll let me do this, I can just do that. So this manipulation low was what I created our DC in manipulation cycle on the daily of our AMDX. And then distribution happened at 6 a.m. Right after that, break of structure in our X for our XAMD. And we expanded until 7:30. I mean, we made like most of the daily movement from 6 to 7:30, which is literally just that first 90-minute cycle of the daily cycle after distribution was confirmed because we got that aggressive move up. Same thing that's been happening really all the time when we have a quick distribution day up. It's going to be AMDX because it happens overnight. And so when our crack correlation for the days overnight in like our London session, then we're just kind of chasing continuations. Even in New York, we're still chasing continuations. So because we didn't have true New York mitigation, I was hesitant. So I did wait a little longer to take entry on the 30-minute PO3, and I'll show you the executions in a minute. But just looking up to this, if I just mentioned our 1 hour structure supported here, same thing with ES. I was looking at this 1 hour that got supported to be tapped into. So ES, I thought we could get more of a retrace to. Once this second 1 hour was made at 9 a.m., I knew that we were just going to fly higher past this daily cycle because if we look on the left side, we do have a lot of drawn liquidity up higher, and ES already took out all-time highs, and we're pushing up higher from there. So I knew that a lot of bullish movement was likely, so I wanted to be in the direction come 10 a.m. open, and if our 90-minute PO3 just moves up really higher, I wanted to get in about halfway through it, which would still give me room to get an entry to move up higher. So I entered in 9:45. No, that wasn't 9:45. Let's take a look at the 15-minute though first, because this 15-minute right here, sorry, that was the 1 hour, but this 15-minute IFUG is really where I was expecting a sweep to, somewhere in the OT around here. It lined up nicely. I thought this was rebalanced. It could just move higher or move to CE, but off of this 1 hour, that was really the deciding factor that, okay, at 9 o'clock, we're just going to move higher and push up to our range. Buy side liquidity, which is my main buy side target, is these relative highs, which was also a previous week high from 2 weeks ago, I believe. So yeah, 2 weeks ago. So I was using that as a near target to get hit to, and it hit in the first 5-minute candle. I mean, probably like the first 3 minutes. No, it was the 5-minute candle. So that was a good sign for me to be in the trade. I was actually looking on the 15-second. It just moved up without a microcycle. So I couldn't take an entry there. I couldn't even take an entry after that because the stop was just way too big. I mean, it was like pushing 60 points plus. So what I was waiting for was, are we going to get a 5-minute continuation on at 9:45? No, we didn't. So I was looking at these 2-minute gaps. 3-minute, it looked like we were respecting order block structure, right? We were. And I managed to take my entry off of this having a minor wick. I thought that this was going to be my safe stop right here. We just mark this safe stop. And on ES, that same time was when our first presented for value gap, which is actually right here. This is 930 price exactly. So we opened breakaway gap, which we can't use as first presented because it uses opening price. And then our first presented for value gap is what supported the rest of the day on ES. So I wasn't looking for it to retrace all the way down here because we're just kind of moving up from buy side. We tapped in the buy side, which is my high time frame drawn liquidity for basically internal before we started moving up to these points, which I'm expecting we hit this one probably today, to be honest. But what I was looking for, 2 minute gap held right here perfectly at that time, 9:45, 9:46. We're expecting distribution. So I had that 2 minute gap coming into the 1 minute. There was a 1 minute gap right here, 9:47. It looked like time to buy, so I bought there. Stop because I'm using the 15-second more. I saw it as this CE right here, a little bit lower, which is a 23-point stop. So I was in 8 contracts there, taking it to 98 points, which is the high. And runners, buy side liquidity at 211 points, and then final runner would be, I wouldn't even take it for there, but I would probably exit just at this one because that's a lot of movement for a day. And I don't know, I just haven't watched the chart to see what's going to happen after that. So the 15-second entry right here, why I love this is because on YM, we came down and created our microcycle at this time. When this was swept, 9:45, you can see we start to reverse around, for not really around 57, but we put in our low, 47, right here, 47, 48, 49. 49 is our low of the day on that. If we're concluding the microcycle on YM, this is the low of our AM session. So because it was the low of AM session, that's what I found correlation between YM and ES and NQ because YM created that microcycle at open. You see this was I need to actually pull up there we go. So this is our microcycle. Once we were trading back below this, I knew that we wanted to move higher too. This was just not, I don't use YM for reading structure for the other assets really, but I knew this microcycle would move us higher. Even if we didn't mitigate True New York, we moved into higher time frame gaps to move us up higher. So I saw this as a safe stop. It still was a safe stop. The microcycle, like I said, for that retrace at, what was it, like 50, at like 10 o'clock. That was a later retrace, but this retrace, I just held it to break even because I thought that we would respect this 2 minute gap right here. We ended up inversing it, so I wanted to be stops break even because I'm still on combines, and so stops break even is just something more of like a safety net. Even though this was a low stop, I was still taking continuations off buy side without a 5 minute tap, so going break even was the smart thing to do. Even though the range was balanced on the 15-second, I can pull up my giant 15-second gap CE, and we supported right above it, which was really what I was trading into. CE of that, I was wanting to get that entry there. Basically got it. I mean, volatility included, we got it, and supported off of the 1 minute still. So the reason for holding is just because you didn't get stopped out yet on that 2 minute. 2 minute holds higher time frame power than the 1 minute, especially with gaps. So should have held that one, but I found another re-entry because that got swept, and I saw that as a low stop entry. Again, I can just ignore ES. Honestly, I saw this as a potential buying opportunity right there. Because this swept, because we had that sweep right here on ES, what time is that? 55. This right here on this 5 minute. Oh my goodness. And this does this live, so if you think this is annoying now, imagine being in a live trade and doing it. Where is it? Was it the 2 minute? It might have been the 2 minute. So because this 2 minute gap, I thought it was a 5 minute, but because that tapped in, order block, we're really just like continuing all-time high. That's our narrative. So we don't even need to come to see of this, but I can expect the wick to do the damage if it's going to do that for the 5 minute candle. That's why I thought the gap was there, so I thought it was a 5 minute, but apparently it was a 2 minute. But I've been, switching through time frames rapidly, trying to get a hang of the 15 and 5 second chart, which I did use today. So using the 15 and 5 second chart, I was looking at this entry to hold. It did hold. It was a safe stop, and you could have gone break even after breaking 10 a.m., but I went break even early because we had minor 10 a.m. news, but I still didn't want to hold through it without a no risk entry. So I went stops break even and got stopped out right there. So it's minor, like 5 point loss. So after that, took this entry, true nanocycle open. You see, we're inversing this. Our microcycle sweep is at this low. We're order block and fair value gap structure are at these lows where we took the previous entry. And so I know thesis is just we're going to continue higher. Off of this 1 minute tap right here, our 4 hour, I can also pull up our 90 minute too because we can go over that. But our 4 hour wick was confirmed at this low. Basically right after that sweep, our 10 a.m. was just not going to sweep. Again, this was our 10 a.m. sweep. It sometimes happens before 10 a.m. You'll notice that it will happen before if it's in alignment with our drawn liquidity. And then 10 a.m. just kind of continues and needs to create our body. But the wick is already confirmed sometimes without a sweep during the 10 a.m. 4 hour PO3. It's sometimes just like a little bit before, even 10 minutes before. Not really, I'd say 10 minutes at most. 10 minutes at most. Never really have I seen it more than 15 minutes. It's usually between like 5 and 10 minutes is when you get a early sweep. So off of that, I took in 10 contracts here with the stop there at that gap that we already tapped. So a little minimized from that low because I was in 10 contracts and I wanted to minimize my risk any way I could. That meaning this would have stopped me out literally like by ticks. It would have, but it still would have stopped me out nonetheless. So what I was looking at after the true nanocycle open was really, if we're not going to continue off of this gap, we hit, this was basically the related buy side liquidity to all-time highs on ES. We hit all-time highs on ES right here at, what time is that? 10:05. So about right here, we hit all-time highs. True nanocycle opened. I knew after this IFUG we were gonna probably move lower, and if we move lower, then I want to see 10 a.m. protected, but it might not be protected just because we're moving off of like order blocks and fair value gaps and not using like a high time frame cracking correlation safe stop. We're past that. So we're trading in the range now because this is our third trade. And so I decided to exit at that price because it was the third trade and because it was an internal range trade, even though it was 10 a.m., it was internal range. And so I just wanted to take the profit I had because I'm on combines. And so that was my entry and exit. The risk there was still like 1 to 2.6. So I did like the trade, but I wanted to get out with profit was the biggest thing. So this was going to be my exit. I was looking at that sweep at True Nanocycle. I'm like, is it just going to hold? See if this 15-second gap is going to hold. If we break market structure, which we did right there, I'm lucky I didn't get a fill down there. At least it was here. That was really where I had my limit, and so I exited there. Sadly, went to like 2.7, but full TP was for a max pass on the account. But I mean, I'm telling you, the targets were higher. If you wanted to really hold higher time frame structure, it was higher, and we're still going higher. So that's the trade recap for today. I'm doing uncut versions just because I want to get used to doing it one and done. It'll save me time in editing and uploading. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a comment of what you took, how you trade all-time highs, because ICT mentions that when we're trading at all-time high, when the market's bullish, it remains bullish until proven otherwise. That's really the saying, bullish until proven otherwise. We're going to keep expanding, and small retraces are going to be like that 5-minute model that I mentioned before. We long at 9:45, we have a 5-minute tap, and then we enter in on the 15-second chart using the wick of the 5-minute, something like that. Something we didn't get here today, but usually, you'd get a tap in there. Kind of, yeah, like ES didn't do, like nothing did today, which is frustrating, but it still happens YM is setting up clean. I think we're approaching all-time highs too on YM. Oh wow, I didn't know how extended we were. Okay, that was all-time highs. I didn't think it was more than the quarter high, but we're going for all-time highs. So I'll see you guys in the next video, and take care.